The fluorescent lights of Ruby's diner flickered at 11:47 p.m., casting shadows across the cracked vinyl booths where Sarah Mitchell wiped down tables with a rag that had seen better days. Her feet ached in shoes held together with duct tape, her uniform was stained from a 12-hour shift, and her tips for the night totaled exactly $23.50. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now let's jump right back in. $23.50 between her and complete destitution. Between her and the eviction notice burning a hole in her apartment door. Between her and the electricity bill that would shut off her lights in exactly 3 days. But Sarah was still smiling. Not because she had any reason to. Not because life was kind or fair or anything resembling good. But because her mother had once told her, "Baby, when you've got nothing left, your smile is the most valuable thing you own. Don't let them take that from you." And Sarah refused to let them take it. The door chimed and Sarah looked up to see a woman stumbling through the entrance. Not walking. Stumbling. Like every step was a negotiation with gravity she was losing. The woman was maybe 60, maybe 70, it was hard to tell. Her clothes were threadbare and dirty, her gray hair matted and unwashed, her face gaunt with that particular kind of hunger that goes deeper than just needing a meal. It's the kind of hunger that says you've been forgotten by the world. The kind that says you're invisible. "Ma'am?" Sarah called out gently. "Can I help you?" The woman's eyes found Sarah's, and in them was something that made Sarah's heart crack wide open. Desperation. Not the kind that begs. The kind that's given up on begging because begging hasn't worked in so long that there's no point anymore. "I'm sorry," the woman whispered, her voice like sandpaper. "I know you're closing soon. I needed to sit down. Just for a minute. I've been walking all day and I just needed to sit." Sarah glanced at the clock. The diner officially closed at midnight. Her manager, Rick, was in the back doing inventory, and he'd already told her twice tonight that they couldn't have loiterers hanging around because it hurt business. As if this diner in the worst part of town had any business to hurt. But Sarah looked at this woman, really looked at her, and saw her mother. Her mother, who died 3 years ago from cancer they couldn't afford to treat. Her mother, who'd worked 3 jobs and still couldn't make ends meet. Her mother, who'd gone hungry so Sarah could eat. "Of course," Sarah said, guiding the woman to a booth. "Please sit. Take all the time you need." The woman collapsed into the seat like her strings had been cut. Up close, Sarah could see she was shaking. Not from cold. From something else. Something worse. "When's the last time you ate?" Sarah asked gently. The woman's eyes filled with tears. I don't remember. Maybe 2 days? 3? I lost track." Sarah's heart shattered. She pulled out her order pad, even though she already knew what she was going to do. "What would you like?" "Anything on the menu." "I don't have money," the woman whispered, shame coloring every word. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come in. I'll go." "No." Sarah's voice was firm. "You're not going anywhere. I asked what you'd like to eat. Not whether you could pay for it." The woman stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. Like kindness was something she'd forgotten existed. I couldn't." "You don't have to. I know I don't have to," Sarah said softly. "I want to. Please. Let me do this." The woman's tears spilled over. The soup. If it's not too much trouble. And maybe some bread?" Sarah wrote it down. "How about soup, bread, and the meatloaf special with mashed potatoes? You look like you could use a real meal." "I couldn't possibly." "You can. And you will." Sarah squeezed the woman's hand. "What's your name?" "Elizabeth," the woman whispered. "Elizabeth Parker." "I'm Sarah." "It's nice to meet you, Elizabeth. You sit right there and I'll get your food." Sarah walked to the kitchen, her mind already calculating. The meatloaf special cost $12.95. The soup was $4.50. Bread was $2. Total, $19.45. She had $23.50 in tips. That would leave her with $4.05. $4.05 to last until her next shift in 2 days. $4.05 when she needed $847 for rent by Friday. But looking at Elizabeth's face, at the desperation and hunger and loneliness etched into every line, Sarah knew she couldn't do anything else. Some things matter more than money. Rick looked up from his clipboard when Sarah came in. "We're closing in 10 minutes. No more orders." "This one's already in," Sarah lied smoothly. "Table 4. Been here since before close." Rick grunted and went back to counting inventory. Sarah put in the order herself, waited for it to come up. and carried it out to Elizabeth. The woman's eyes widened at the plate in front of her. This is too much. It's exactly enough, Sarah said firmly. Please. Elizabeth picked up her fork with shaking hands and took a bite. And then another. And then she was eating like she couldn't stop, like her body remembered what food was and couldn't believe it was happening. Tears streamed down her face the entire time. Sarah stood nearby, pretending to wipe down tables, watching to make sure Elizabeth ate every bite. The other customers, the 3 that were left, were watching too. But not with kindness. Table 7, 2 men in expensive suits, laughed openly. Look at that, one said loudly. Probably spent her welfare check on drugs and now expects handouts. Disgusting, the other agreed. People like that are what's wrong with this country. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. At table 9, a woman in yoga pants and designer sunglasses at 11:50 at night, because of course, wrinkled her nose. She's going to steal something. I've seen her type. You should call the police. She's not stealing anything, Sarah said quietly. She's eating a meal. That she can't pay for, the woman shot back. Which makes it stealing. Or are you paying for it? Because that would make you an idiot. Sarah felt her face flush, but she kept her voice level. Whether I'm paying for it or not is my business, ma'am. And kindness isn't idiocy. The woman rolled her eyes. Whatever. Just keep her away from my table. She probably has diseases. Elizabeth had stopped eating. Her head was down, her shoulders hunched, trying to make herself smaller. Trying to disappear. Sarah walked over and sat down across from her. Don't listen to them, she said softly. They don't matter. They're right though, Elizabeth whispered. I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I shouldn't be here. You are somebody, Sarah said fiercely. You're Elizabeth Parker. And you matter. You matter to me. Elizabeth looked up, and the gratitude in her eyes made Sarah's throat tight. Why are you being kind to me? You don't know me. I'm just trash that wandered in off the street. You're not trash. You're a human being who's had hard times. We all have hard times. Sarah paused. My mama used to say that how we treat people when they're at their lowest tells us who we really are. Not when they can pay us back. Not when they can do something for us. But when they have nothing to offer except their humanity. That's when character shows. Your mama sounds like she was a wise woman. She was the best woman I ever knew. Sarah smiled sadly. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. We couldn't afford treatment, so she just faded away. Toward the end she was a lot like you. Thin, tired, hungry because the chemo killed her appetite. And people looked at her the same way those people are looking at you. Like she was less than human because she was sick and poor. Elizabeth reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. Her fingers were thin and cold, but her grip was firm. I'm sorry about your mama. And I'm sorry people were cruel to her. And I'm grateful, more grateful than you'll ever know for this meal. For your kindness. For seeing me as a person. They sat there for a moment, 2 women who'd been knocked down by life, holding hands across a scratched formica table in a dying diner at midnight. Then Elizabeth spoke again, her voice so quiet Sarah almost missed it. I'm dying too. Cancer. Stage 4. Pancreatic. The doctors gave me maybe 2 months. That was 6 weeks ago. Sarah's heart stopped. Elizabeth, I don't have insurance. No family. My husband died 10 years ago. My son, he hasn't spoken to me in 5 years. Not since I lost the house and ended up on the streets. He said I was an embarrassment. That I should have tried harder. Elizabeth's voice broke. I did try. I tried so hard. But sometimes trying isn't enough. Sarah was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, sweetheart. Be grateful. Grateful you have your health. Grateful you have your strength. Grateful you have your kindness because that's the rarest thing in this world. Elizabeth squeezed Sarah's hand. This meal, this moment, you seeing me as a person, it's the first kindness anyone's shown me in months. Maybe years. And I want you to know it matters. You matter. Sarah couldn't speak. She just held Elizabeth's hand and cried. Rick came out from the back. We're closed. Everyone out. The suits at table 7 threw money on the table and left, still chuckling about the homeless junkie. The woman at table 9 followed, giving Elizabeth a wide berth like poverty was contagious. Sarah helped Elizabeth to her feet. Where are you staying? Do you have somewhere to go? Elizabeth's eyes slid away. Here and there. I'll find somewhere. It's 30 degrees outside tonight. I'll be fine. I've been through worse. But Sarah could see she wasn't fine. Could see she was barely holding on. Wait here, Sarah said. Just wait 1 minute. She ran to the back, grabbed her jacket, the only one she owned, and the $4.05 in tips she had left. She came back and pressed both into Elizabeth's hands. Take these. The jacket will keep you warm. The money, it's not much, but maybe you can get a coffee somewhere. Stay warm for a few more hours. Sarah, no. I need to know you're okay more than I need a jacket. Sarah's voice was firm. Please. Take them. Elizabeth hugged her then, a fierce, desperate hug that felt like goodbye. You're an angel, she whispered. Don't ever let this world make you hard. Don't ever let them take your kindness. And then she was gone, shuffling out into the night wrapped in Sarah's jacket, and Sarah was left standing in the empty diner with $0 to her name, no jacket, and an eviction notice waiting at home. Rick locked the door behind Elizabeth. You paid for her meal, didn't you? Sarah nodded. And you gave her your jacket and your tips. Another nod. Rick shook his head. You're an idiot, Mitchell. A complete idiot. You can't save everyone. You can barely save yourself. I know, Sarah said quietly. But I had to try. She walked home in the freezing night, her thin uniform offering no protection against the wind. Her apartment was dark, electricity already shut off, because apparently her payment had been due yesterday, not in 3 days like she'd thought. She sat on her couch in the dark and cried. Cried for Elizabeth. Cried for her mother. Cried for herself and the impossible situation she was in. Cried because she'd given away the last money she had and now she had nothing. Nothing except the knowledge that she'd seen someone's humanity when everyone else had seen trash. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth more than $4.05. Sarah woke the next morning to pounding on her door. She dragged herself up, every muscle aching from sleeping in the cold, and opened it to find her landlord, Mr. Chen. Rent's due Friday, Mitchell. You got it? Sarah's throat was tight. I'm working on it, Mr. Chen. I get paid. I don't care when you get paid. I care about Friday. You don't have the money, you're out. I got a list of people waiting for this apartment. He wasn't a cruel man, just a tired one. Just someone trying to survive like everyone else. I understand. He left, and Sarah got ready for her shift with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. She had 2 days to come up with $847. She had $0. The math wasn't matting. At the diner, the morning rush was brutal. Sarah ran from table to table, plastering on her smile, being kind even when customers were rude. Being patient even when they snapped at her. Being gracious even when they left 75 cents on a $40 bill. By lunch, she'd made $18 in tips. By dinner, $47. By closing, $73. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. She was clearing table 12 when Rick called her into his office. Mitchell, we need to talk. Sarah's heart sank. She knew that tone. You're a good worker, Rick said, not meeting her eyes. One of the best I've had. But corporate is cutting hours. I have to let someone go and you're last hired, so, please, Sarah heard herself say. Please, Rick. I need this job. I'll work double shifts. I'll take the worst hours. I'll do anything. I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's just business. He handed her an envelope. 2 weeks severance. It's the best I can do. Sarah took the envelope with numb fingers. Opened it. $347.68. Added to her $73 in tips. $420.68 total. She needed $847. She was $426.32 short. It was over. She was going to lose her apartment. Probably end up exactly like Elizabeth. On the streets. Invisible. Forgotten. Sarah walked out of the diner in a daze. The night was cold again, and she had no jacket because she'd given it to a dying woman. She should regret it. She should be furious with herself for giving away money she desperately needed. But she didn't regret it. She couldn't. She walked with no destination, just walking because standing still felt like giving up. She found herself outside the diner again, staring at the spot where Elizabeth had stumbled in 2 nights ago. And then she saw it. Saw her. Elizabeth. Lying on the sidewalk 3 blocks down, barely visible in the shadow of a dumpster. Sarah ran. Elizabeth. Elizabeth. The woman's eyes opened, and there was recognition but also resignation. Sarah. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to see me like this. Elizabeth was worse. So much worse. Her breathing was labored. Her skin was gray. She was dying right there on the sidewalk and no one was stopping. People walked past like she wasn't there. Like she was just another piece of trash. We need to get you to a hospital, Sarah said desperately. No money for hospitals? Elizabeth whispered. No insurance. They'll just send me away. I don't care. We're going. Sarah pulled out her phone to call an ambulance, but Elizabeth's hand stopped her. No. Please. I don't want to die in a hospital, alone, surrounded by machines. I'd rather die here. At least here you're with me. At least here someone sees me. Sarah was sobbing now. Elizabeth, please. Let me help you. You already did, sweetheart. You gave me dignity when no one else would. You gave me kindness. You saw me. That's more than anyone else has done in so long. Elizabeth's breathing was getting worse. I need to tell you something. Need you to know. My son, his name is Alexander Parker. He's a good man. A successful man. He couldn't handle seeing me fall. Couldn't handle the shame of having a mother on the streets. But he's good deep down. And I need you to tell him I forgive him. Tell him I love him. Tell him it's okay. Elizabeth, you can tell him yourself. Just hold on. No, baby. It's time. I'm tired. So tired. Elizabeth smiled and it was peaceful. Thank you for seeing me. For feeding me. For treating me like I mattered. You're what's right with this world, Sarah Mitchell. Don't ever change. Her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. And Sarah sat on that cold sidewalk, holding a dead woman she'd known for one night, and screamed. Screamed for the injustice of it. Screamed for a world that let people die on sidewalks. Screamed for her mother and Elizabeth and everyone who'd been forgotten. People finally stopped then. Called 911. Stood around filming on their phones because someone dying was content, apparently. The ambulance came. The police came. They took Elizabeth's body, and Sarah gave them all the information she had. Elizabeth Parker. Dying of cancer. Lived on the streets. Had a son named Alexander Parker. That was all she knew. An officer drove Sarah home. She sat in her dark apartment with $420.68 and no job and an eviction coming in 2 days, and she felt completely hollow. She tried to save someone and failed. Tried to make a difference and it hadn't mattered. Elizabeth was dead and Sarah was going to lose everything, and what was the point of kindness if it didn't change anything? She didn't know that 3 blocks away, a man in a $5,000 suit was getting out of a limousine. Didn't know that this man, Alexander Parker, CEO of Parker Industries, worth approximately $8.4 billion, had been searching for his mother for 2 weeks. Didn't know that he'd hired private investigators after guilt had finally eaten through his pride. Didn't know that he'd been driving through this neighborhood every night, looking, hoping, praying he'd find her before it was too late. And he was too late. The police were still there when Alexander arrived. They told him his mother had died an hour ago. That she'd been living on the streets. That she died alone on a sidewalk. Not alone, one officer corrected. There was a young woman with her. A waitress from Ruby's Diner. She was the one holding her when she passed. She's the one who called it in. Alexander's hands were shaking. Where is this waitress? I need to speak with her. She gave us her address. Sarah Mitchell, apartment 4B, 1847 Riverside. But sir, maybe you should wait. Process this first. No, Alexander said firmly. I need to speak with her now. I need to know about my mother's last moments. I need to know someone cared. The next morning, Sarah woke to pounding on her door. She dragged herself up, expecting Mr. Chen coming early for rent, coming to kick her out. She opened the door. A man stood there. Tall, maybe 40, in an expensive suit that looked out of place in this hallway. His eyes were red like he'd been crying. Behind him stood 2 other men in suits and a woman with a briefcase. Sarah Mitchell? The man asked. Yes. My name is Alexander Parker. Elizabeth Parker was my mother. Sarah's breath caught. Oh God. I'm so sorry. I tried to get her help. I tried to save her. I'm so sorry I couldn't. Stop, Alexander said gently. Please. Can I come in? Sarah stepped aside, suddenly aware of how pathetic her apartment looked. No furniture except a couch and a mattress on the floor. No electricity. No food in the fridge. This man's suit probably cost more than everything she owned. Alexander sat on her couch and the others stood by the door. The police told me you were with my mother when she died. They said you bought her a meal the night before. Given her your jacket. Your tips. Is that true? Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Why? Sarah found her voice. Because she was hungry. Because she was cold. Because she was a human being who deserved kindness. You didn't know her. I didn't have to know her to see she was suffering. Alexander's eyes filled with tears. I've spent the last 2 weeks searching for my mother. Hired the best investigators money could buy. drove through every neighborhood, put up posters, offered rewards, and I couldn't find her. But you, a waitress with nothing, you saw her. You helped her. You gave her dignity in her final days when her own son was too proud to maintain a relationship with her when she fell on hard times. You pulled out a folder. The police gave me her belongings. There wasn't much, but there was a note. She wrote it on a napkin from Ruby's diner. It was in the pocket of a jacket, your jacket. She wrote it the night before she died. He handed Sarah the napkin. Sarah unfolded it with shaking hands. In shaky handwriting it said, "To my son Alexander, if you ever see this, I forgive you. I love you. I understand. The shame wasn't yours to carry, it was mine, and I'm sorry I put that burden on you. Don't spend your life in regret. Live fully. Love fully. And if you can, find the angel who showed me kindness at the end. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. She works at Ruby's diner. She has nothing, but she gave me everything. She saw me when no one else would. She fed me when I was starving. She loved me when I was unlovable. If you can, if there's any way, help her. Because people like her are what's right with this world, and this world needs more of them. I love you, my son. Be better than I was. Your mother, Elizabeth." Sarah was sobbing. Full body sobs that shook her frame. Alexander was crying too. "My mother spent her last hours thinking of me, forgiving me, and telling me about you." He wiped his eyes. "So I need to know. How can I help you? What do you need?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't need anything from you. I didn't help your mother expecting anything. I helped her because it was right." "I know," Alexander said softly. "That's exactly why I need to help you. Please. My mother's dying wish was for me to help you. Let me honor that." Sarah's voice broke. "I'm being evicted on Friday. I lost my job yesterday. I have $420 to my name and I need $847 for rent. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll probably end up exactly where your mother was." Alexander turned to the woman with the briefcase. "Jennifer, take care of the rent. All of it. For the next year." "Mr. Parker, the next year," he repeated firmly. He turned back to Sarah. "Consider it handled. Your rent is paid for 12 months. Sarah couldn't breathe. "I can't accept that. That's too much. I can't." "You can. And you will." He pulled out a business card. "This is my card. Tomorrow I want you to come to my office. We're hiring for our community outreach program. It pays $75,000 a year with full benefits. The position is yours if you want it. I'm a waitress. I don't have experience in, you have experience in seeing people others ignore. In showing compassion when it costs you everything. In maintaining your humanity in a world that tries to strip it away. That's the only experience that matters." He stood. "My mother died on a sidewalk because I was too proud to maintain our relationship when she lost everything. I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. But in her last hours she had you. Someone who saw her worth when she had nothing. Someone who sacrificed their own comfort to ease her suffering. You gave her dignity. You gave her love. And you gave her a peaceful death knowing someone cared." Alexander's voice broke. "You gave my mother what I should have given her. And I can never repay that. But I can honor her memory by helping you. By making sure you never end up where she did. Please, let me do this." Sarah looked at this billionaire standing in her dark apartment, tears streaming down his face, begging to help her. Looked at the business card in her hand. Looked at the woman named Jennifer already on the phone arranging rent payment. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Alexander smiled through his tears. "Thank you. My mother would be so grateful." He turned to leave, then paused. "She wrote something else on that napkin. Something I think you should know." He pulled out his phone and showed Sarah a photo of the full napkin. At the bottom, in even shakier writing, it said, "Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I need you to know, you saved me. Not from death, death was coming regardless. But you saved me from dying invisible. From dying forgotten. From dying believing I didn't matter. You reminded me I was human. You reminded me I deserved kindness. You reminded me love still exists in this world. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for feeding me. Thank you for giving me dignity. You are the best of humanity, and I hope the world treats you with the same grace you showed me. With all my love, Elizabeth." Sarah collapsed onto her couch, clutching the photo, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. Alexander knelt beside her. "You changed my mother's last days. You gave her hope when she had none. You proved to her that goodness still exists. And now I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving to you that your kindness mattered. That it changed everything. That it rippled out in ways you can't imagine." He stood. I'll see you tomorrow at my office. 9 a.m. Jennifer will text you the address. They left, and Sarah sat in her dark apartment that wouldn't be dark for long because Alexander had already called the power company, sat there holding a photo of a napkin message from a woman she'd known for one night, and she understood something profound. Kindness is never wasted. Love is never lost. The smallest act of compassion can change someone's world, can ease their suffering, can remind them they matter. She'd given Elizabeth a meal, a jacket, and $4.05. She'd given her dignity and respect and love. And in return, Elizabeth had given her everything. Had seen her worth. Had advocated for her from beyond the grave. Had sent her son to save her the way Sarah had tried to save Elizabeth. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the job or the paid rent. It was about being seen. Being valued. Being reminded that humanity matters more than anything else. Sarah went to Alexander's office the next day. It wasn't just an office. It was the entire top floor of a skyscraper. Alexander met her personally, introduced her to the team, explained the community outreach program. We're launching the Elizabeth Parker Foundation, he said. Dedicated to helping homeless individuals, particularly those suffering from terminal illness. We're going to provide meals, shelter, medical care, dignity. Everything my mother deserved and didn't get. He looked at Sarah. And I want you to run it. I want you to bring your heart, your compassion, your ability to see people others ignore. I want you to make sure no one else dies on a sidewalk feeling invisible. Sarah took the job. Her first day at Parker Industries was overwhelming. The office was glass and steel and the kind of wealth she'd only seen in movies. Her desk overlooked the same city where she'd served coffee just weeks ago, the same city where Elizabeth had died on a sidewalk. It felt surreal. Like she'd stepped into someone else's life. But Alexander made sure she never forgot why she was there. On her desk was a framed photo of Elizabeth, smiling from before the hard times. Before the streets. Before the cancer. When she'd been a mother, a wife, a woman with dreams and dignity. That's who we're fighting for, Alexander had said. Every person we help is someone's mother, someone's child, someone who deserves to be seen. The first person Sarah helped through the foundation was a man named Marcus. He was 53, a veteran living under a bridge with stage 3 lung cancer. He reminded her so much of Elizabeth that Sarah had to excuse herself to cry. But she came back, sat with him, listened to his story, arranged for his medical care, housing, treatment. Why are you helping me? Marcus had asked, his voice rough with disbelief. Because you matter, Sarah had said simply. Because someone once told me that how we treat people at their lowest defines who we truly are. And I choose to be someone who sees you. Marcus cried. This grown man, this veteran who'd served his country, who'd survived war zones and hardship, cried because someone saw him as human. That broke Sarah's heart and healed it simultaneously. Over the next months, Sarah developed a routine. She'd arrive at the office early before anyone else. She'd look at Elizabeth's photo and promise, "Today I'll honor you. Today I'll see someone you would have seen. Today I'll be the person you believed I was." Then she'd dive into the work. Coordinating with shelters. Arranging medical appointments. Meeting with donors. Training volunteers. And most importantly, spending time with the people they served. She learned that James had been a teacher before addiction took his job, his family, his life. That Patricia had been a nurse before her mental illness made it impossible to work. That Robert had been an accountant before medical debt from his daughter's leukemia treatment bankrupted him. Every single person had a story. Had dignity. Had worth. They'd just been forgotten by a world that moves too fast to see suffering. Sarah made sure the foundation saw them. Made sure they knew they mattered. The foundation grew rapidly. Alexander poured resources into it, driven by guilt and love and determination to honor his mother. Within 6 months, they'd helped 200 people. Within a year, 847. But Sarah never let it become just numbers. Every single person was Elizabeth to her. Every single life mattered. She kept in touch with many of them. Attended Marcus' funeral when the lung cancer took him, but he died in a hospice bed, surrounded by people who cared, not alone on a street. Celebrated when Patricia got back on her medication and found stable housing. Cried happy tears when Robert got a job and could finally bring his daughter to visit the foundation to say thank you. These moments, these human connections, this was what Elizabeth had given her. Not just a job or financial stability, but purpose, meaning, the understanding that one person's compassion can ripple outward and change countless lives. Alexander noticed the change in Sarah over that year. She'd arrived broken, desperate, barely holding on. Now she walked with purpose. smiled genuinely. Had found her calling. My mother would be so proud of you, he told her one day. Not just for what you're doing but for who you've become. Sarah smiled. I'm proud of you too. Your mother told me you were a good man deep down. She was right. I wasn't good to her, Alexander said quietly, the guilt still heavy in his voice even after a year. I let pride and shame keep me from her when she needed me most. You're being good to her now, Sarah said firmly. Every person we help, you're honoring her. Every life we save, you're showing her that her death mattered. That her life mattered. That the love she had for you even at the end wasn't wasted. Alexander's eyes filled with tears. I miss her. Every day I miss her. And every day I hate myself for not being there. Then stop hating yourself and start loving her memory, Sarah said gently. She forgave you. She told you in that note. Now you need to forgive yourself. Honor her by living the way she wanted you to live. By being the man she knew you could be. It was exactly what Alexander needed to hear. Something shifted in him that day. The guilt didn't disappear, guilt like that never fully does, but it transformed. Became fuel instead of weight. Motivation instead of burden. Together, Sarah and Alexander built something beautiful from something tragic. On the 1-year anniversary of Elizabeth's death, Sarah and Alexander stood at her grave. The headstone was beautiful, expensive, everything Elizabeth deserved. Not just a name and dates but words that captured who she was, Elizabeth Parker. Beloved mother. She saw beauty in everyone and taught others to do the same. Her kindness echoes through eternity. Thank you, Alexander said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. For giving my mother love when I failed to. For seeing her worth when I was too blind with pride. For being everything I should have been. You're being too hard on yourself, Sarah said gently, placing her hand on his arm. You were human. Flawed. Scared. We all are. What matters is what you did after. How you honored her memory. How you turned grief into action. Your mother would be so proud of the man you've become. We, Alexander corrected, his voice firm despite the tears. How we turned grief into action. I couldn't have done this without you. You were the catalyst. You were the one who showed me what true compassion looks like. What it means to sacrifice for someone else without expecting anything in return. Sarah smiled through her own tears. And I couldn't have done it without your mother. She saved me as much as I tried to save her. She reminded me that kindness matters. That one act of compassion can change everything. They stood in silence for a long moment, each lost in their own thoughts. The cemetery was quiet except for the wind rustling through the trees. Birds sang somewhere in the distance. Life continuing despite death. Beauty persisting despite loss. You know what the hardest part is? Alexander said finally. Knowing that she died thinking I was ashamed of her. That in her last months she believed I didn't love her anymore. She didn't think that, Sarah said firmly. Read her note again. She understood. She forgave you. She knew you loved her even when you couldn't show it. Even when pride and fear kept you away. A mother's love doesn't die because her child makes mistakes. It endures. It forgives. It hopes. How did you get so wise? Alexander asked with a sad smile. I'm not wise, Sarah laughed. I'm just someone who's been broken enough times to understand what really matters. My mama used to tell me that wisdom comes from suffering. That the deepest truths are learned in the darkest valleys. I didn't understand what she meant until I lost her. Until I hit rock bottom. Until I met your mother. She touched the headstone gently. Elizabeth taught me that there's always a choice. Even when you have nothing, you can choose kindness. Even when you're dying, you can choose grace. Even when the world has forgotten you, you can choose to see the humanity in others. That's power. That's strength. That's what your mother had until her very last breath. Alexander pulled out his phone and showed Sarah something. I've been working on this. I wanted to show you. It was a website. The Elizabeth Parker Initiative. A nationwide program to identify and help terminally ill homeless individuals. To give them dignity, medical care, and compassion in their final days. We're launching in 50 cities next month, Alexander explained. We've partnered with hospitals, hospices, and outreach organizations. We're training volunteers to do exactly what you did. To see people. To sit with them. To make sure no one dies alone and forgotten on a sidewalk. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Alexander, this is incredible. This is your vision, he said. Every training manual, every protocol, it's all based on what you taught us. How to see dignity where others see failure. How to offer compassion without judgment. How to honor someone's humanity even when they're at their absolute lowest. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Your mother would be so happy. This is exactly what she would have wanted. I know, Alexander said softly. That's why I'm doing it. But Sarah, there's something else. He turned to face her fully. I've been talking to the board. We want to expand your role. National Director of the Elizabeth Parker Initiative. You'd oversee all 50 cities. Train the trainers. Be the face of this movement. The salary is $250,000 annually, plus full benefits, plus a team of 20 people working under you. Sarah couldn't speak. Couldn't process what she was hearing. I know it's a lot, Alexander continued. And I know you're happy with your current position. But Sarah, you have a gift. You have the ability to see people the way my mother saw them. The way she saw you. And the world needs that gift. Desperately. I don't know if I'm qualified. You're the most qualified person I know, Alexander interrupted gently. Not because of degrees or experience, but because you understand what it means to be seen. You understand the power of one person showing up for another. You understand that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can save someone's life. Or at the very least, remind them that their life mattered. Sarah looked at the headstone. At Elizabeth's name. At the words, her kindness echoes through eternity. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. For her. For everyone like her. Alexander hugged her then, this billionaire and this former waitress, standing in a cemetery, united by loss and love and determination to make sure that loss meant something. They worked together for the next 4 years, and the Elizabeth Parker Initiative became a national phenomenon. Featured in newspapers. Profiled on television. Recognized by the president. But Sarah never forgot where it came from. Never forgot that it started with $5 and a meal and a dying woman on a sidewalk. She told that story at every speaking engagement. At every fundraiser. At every training session. I used my last $5 to buy food for a dying woman everyone mocked, she'd say. And that woman changed my entire life. Not because she was wealthy or powerful or connected. But because she saw me. Because she wrote a note on a napkin that made her son see me too. Because she reminded me that kindness is never wasted. That love is never lost. That the smallest act of compassion can echo through eternity. The story resonated. Donations poured in. Volunteers signed up by the thousands. The movement grew beyond anything Sarah or Alexander could have imagined. By year 5, they'd helped over 10,000 people. Terminally ill individuals who got to die with dignity. Who got medical care and comfortable beds and someone holding their hand. Who got to feel seen and valued and loved in their final days. Sarah met many of them personally. Held their hands as they died. Listened to their stories. Made sure they knew they mattered. Each one was Elizabeth to her. Each one was her mother. Each one was a human being who deserved compassion. They stood in silence, remembering a woman who died on a sidewalk but whose legacy fed hundreds. A woman who'd been invisible but who changed the world. That night, Sarah went home to a nice apartment, paid for, warm, full of food. She pulled out the napkin, now framed on her wall, and read Elizabeth's words again. You saved me from dying invisible. Sarah whispered to the empty room, to Elizabeth's memory, to the universe. No, Elizabeth. You saved me. You reminded me that kindness matters. That love is never wasted. That the smallest act of compassion can echo through eternity. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for sending your son to save me the way I tried to save you. She touched the frame gently. I promise I'll spend my life making sure no one else feels invisible. Making sure everyone knows they matter. Making sure your legacy lives on. And she kept that promise. 5 years later, the Elizabeth Parker Foundation had helped over 4,000 people. Sarah had become a nationally recognized advocate for the homeless. And Alexander had become the kind of man his mother had always hoped he'd be. Compassionate, generous, devoted to helping others. But none of it would have happened if Sarah hadn't used her last $5 to buy food for a dying woman everyone mocked. If she hadn't given her jacket to someone who was cold. If she hadn't seen humanity where others saw trash. Because kindness is never wasted. Love is never lost. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can change the world. So if you've ever wondered whether your kindness matters, whether your small acts of love make a difference, remember Sarah's story. Remember Elizabeth. Remember that the meal you buy for someone hungry, the coat you give someone cold, the moment you spend seeing someone invisible, might be the most important thing you ever do. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever helped someone when it cost you something? Have you ever been helped when you needed it most? Share your story in the comments. Let's honor everyone like Elizabeth who've been forgotten. Let's celebrate everyone like Sarah who refuses to let cruelty win. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness matters, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because you never know when you might be the person who changes someone's world. Or when someone might change yours. Thanks for watching. And remember, the finest thing you can give someone is the knowledge that they're seen, they're valued, they matter. Don't let this world make you hard. Don't let them take your compassion. Because people like Sarah, people like you, are what's right with this world. And we need more of you. Keep being kind. Keep seeing people. Keep loving. It matters more than you'll ever know.